Hello guys, Crispy here, welcome back to another video. In this one, my friends, I'm gonna be testing the GTX 1066GB, as you can see here in MSI Afterburner. We are running the driver version 441.20. This is the MSI Gaming X version of the card, by the way, and we are running at a little bit of an overclock here, plus 120 MHz on the core, plus 550 MHz on the memory. It runs at a stable 2063 MHz on the core while at 100% load, and we're gonna be testing it with the Ryzen 7 3700X and 16 gigs of RAM. Of course, overkill specs for the GTX 1060, but you guys should be fine with something like a Ryzen 5 2600 or like 2600 overclocked. 3600, you'll get exactly the same FPS as we're about to see, and we're gonna be testing it at 1080p, of course, very low, competitive, which is very low with the maximum view distance over here, maybe with medium textures, because textures don't affect your frame rate that much, like a 1% hit to the frame rate. So yeah, makes the game look a lot better. And we're also going to be testing low, medium, high, and ultra, the presets as usual. Alright everybody, we are back here in the game, Erangel, 1080p, very low settings still, of course, everything is the same, and we're gonna be dropping in our favorite city, Pochinki. So let's start our FPS counting system here, average and 1% lows while dropping. Let's see if we actually get a little bit of stuttering. We should be, yep, okay, so 80s. 50s, as you can see, 48, that's the 1% lows that we're getting right now, and that's because the game has been like this since day one, honestly. When you are dropping, you are bound to see some stuttering issues. Whether you have a high-end PC or a low-end PC, the stuttering will always be there because it's down to the game itself. Come on, I'm stuck. Let's go, guys. Let's grab some weapons here and try not to die. That's our main objective, okay? And you know what, guys? Maybe these 1% lows are a little bit inaccurate, so I'm just gonna go ahead and reset that because, yeah, we aren't really dropping from the plane anymore, so we want to see our FPS and our performance down here when you are actually playing the game. Okay, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, okay, just chill down, buddy. Jesus, get away from here. As you can see, guys, our 1% lows are now smoothed out a little bit. It's in the 90s, you know. It indicates a little tiny bit of stuttering, you know, because there's quite a bit of a discrepancy between, oh boy, there's one there. Get away from that, boy. Should I push him, guys? I think I'm gonna die here. But yeah, the discrepancy between 1% lows and average FPS means that there's a little bit, tiny bit of stuttering here in this game, but that's normal for PUBG. Oh boy, just chill down, mate, okay? I'm allowed to shoot you, but you're not allowed to shoot me because I'm making a video. Even if there's a little bit of stuttering here, I say that the game is actually completely playable. Alright, we got him, finally. As you can see now, our 1% lows have smoothed out a little bit better now. Okay, so we got a little stutter there, but it's not enough to... But, you know, it's not game breaking. That's what matters over here. Our 1% lows are actually very, very good right now, above 100 FPS. Our average FPS is around 160. So if you guys have a 144Hz monitor like I do, you will be able to play this game absolutely fine. It's very, very smooth. I love the experience here on 1066GB. Of course, you'll need to have a beefy CPU, kind of, to play this game at these frame rates, because if you don't have like a Ryzen 5 3600 over here, if you have something like a Ryzen 5 1600 or 2600, you won't be seeing these FPS at very low settings. You'll be seeing the same FPS as I do at like medium settings. Probably like high settings and ultra settings, it will be exactly the same because there's no CPU bottleneck anymore. Actually, you don't really need that beefy of a CPU, to be honest. This is an 8-core 16-thread processor that we're running right here. You don't even need a 6-core processor. Something like an i5 7600K overclocked will do better than, for example, the Ryzen 5 1600 in this game, because as you can see by the CPU usage, the game doesn't really use more than 4 threads. So, and we're gonna set now the view distance to ultra and the textures to medium over here and see how many FPS we can get with these settings. So now, as you can see, the textures loaded in there. It looks a little bit better, of course. The textures on very low settings are actually very, very bad. And let's start our counting here. Okay, so as you can see, Oh my god, we got a little stutter there. So 19 FPS, 1% low. God damn it, 36. Okay, that's just how the game performs, you know. I'm just gonna leave it like that. I'm not gonna do anything. I'm here to show you the performance. So 120 FPS, 110s sometimes here around the city. That's not too bad, you know. If you have that high refresh rate monitor, it's still very, very smooth, aside from that occasional stutter here and there. It doesn't really happen too often, but it's something that it's there. It has been here since the beginning of the PUBG days, so I don't think it's gonna go away anytime soon. If you don't want stuttering, go play PUBG Lite, maybe. It's free. It has like 95% of the content that this one has, and it runs really well even on a GT 710. So, you know, if you guys are into it, if you don't mind playing PUBG Lite, I actually think it's a good option over this one. So we've seen our little run here at competitive settings. Let's just go to the church again. We should be seeing like around 107 FPS looking at the entire city, so we're just gonna go ahead and do that. But yeah, as you can see guys, at these settings our average FPS are very good, 148 right now. So if you have that 144 Hz monitor, you can expect to use all of those hertz efficiently here with the GTX 1060. Of course, it's not going to be 144 plus FPS all of the time. That's a little bit unrealistic for a game like PUBG. You know, you have a huge map, you have 100 people in the server, so yeah, it doesn't run as good as, for example, CSGO, but that's to be expected, I think. Actually, we're getting like 112, 115 FPS over here. That's not bad at all. Okay, I was expecting a couple of FPS lower than that, but yeah, alright. And let's do low settings right now. Okay, so low settings are applying. Alright, here we go. It's counting now, and as you can see guys, we are getting like 130 FPS. Our GPU usage is actually in the 90s right now. Actually it dropped from 90 just as I said that, but it's mostly in the 90s. As you can see, we're getting 110 FPS around that here, looking at the entire city of Pochinki. So yeah, we're still a little bit CPU bound. You know, it's not too bad. It's something you can expect even with an i7 8700K at stock clocks. If you overclock that, it will run a little bit better than the R7 3700X that we're using right now. Maybe the Ryzen 5 3600 is a little bit more of a realistic pair for the GTX 1060, and that gets exactly the same FPS in this game because the single core performance compared to the 3700X is the same. After all, they're in the same architecture, they use the same cores, and the Ryzen 7 of course just has 2 more cores and 4 more threads. So yeah, it doesn't really matter in PUBG because even a quad core CPU with an overclock should be able to provide you with these FPS like a 7600K that we just talked about. So yeah, low settings here, as you can see, it doesn't perform bad at all. If you want that little bit of like shadow improvement and ambient occlusion and like a little bit of better lighting, I will say, you can use these settings and still retain around 130 FPS average. So as you can see here, we are now at medium settings, 1080p of course. I'm just gonna go ahead and start our average counting. Okay, so there's one guy there. Can we get him? Can we? No, we can't get him. Okay, let's go ahead and go to our little church there. As you can see, our 1% lows are pretty good actually. Okay, maybe we got a shot in that guy. I'm not really sure about that, but yeah, let's go away, move on. As you can see now, our GPU usage is actually maxed out at 98%. Oh boy, oh my god! What the heck? Where is he? God damn it. Okay, I'm done. I didn't even see him. Alright guys, here we are again, 1080p, medium settings. As you can see, I'm just gonna start the counting thing again. I just want to get to the church. Let's do this. So as I was telling you before, our GPU usage is now maxed out at 97, 98% or 99% usage. So that means that there's no CPU bottleneck anymore. And we're actually getting quite an impressive amount of FPS for the GTX 1060 here. 1080p medium settings does look a lot lot better than low and, for example, very low settings, of course. So if you want that visual quality, look at those reflections, they actually look pretty good. If you want that visual quality while retaining a decent amount of FPS, you can see that this GTX 1060 actually can run a 144Hz monitor even at medium settings. And as I usually say, guys, you don't really need 144 plus FPS all of the time to experience high refresh rate gaming. You know, even if you are getting 100 FPS in a 144Hz monitor, you'll still have a better experience and it will feel a lot smoother still, even at 90 FPS than 60 FPS. So keep that in mind. It's still a fantastic experience here with the GTX 1060, even if you're getting like 110 to 120 FPS. As you can see here, our average so far has been 123 FPS right now. This is very smooth performance coming out from the GTX 1060 still. I am definitely loving this performance. It feels buttery smooth and you can definitely play like this. Even if you have the 3GB 1060, that's just like around 10% slower than this 6GB model. And as you can see, our VRAM usage is actually at 3GB. So if you want to play at medium settings, the 3GB 1060 can do the job and will do the job just fine as well. Alright, it's time now for 1080p high settings. Let's do this. Apply that. So let's start our benchmark run over here. So 100 FPS, that's what we're getting right now on high settings. So pretty impressive stuff still from the GTX 1060, you know, 100 FPS. Even if we can get 100 plus FPS average or like around 100 FPS average throughout our little run over here in Pachinki, that will be amazing, man. This is actually still very smooth, as I told you already. 100 FPS in a 144Hz monitor feels a lot smoother than the same amount of FPS in a 60Hz monitor. So even if you still have that high refresh rate monitor with the GTX 1060 and want to play at high settings, because yeah, there's a little bit of a difference coming from medium to high settings, not quite as noticeable as very low settings compared to medium settings, but there's still a difference between medium settings and high settings. So if you want that graphical fidelity while still retaining a very good gameplay and smooth gameplay, you can see that high settings, it's definitely not a problem here for the GTX 1060 6GB. I think even ultra settings should be above 60 FPS at this point at 1080p. As you can see here, looking at the entire city, we're getting 95 FPS, so that's pretty much our minimum here so far. And our 1% lows are at 77 FPS, as you can see. Oh my god, I just dropped. Well guys, I gotta tell you, this feels really good. The stuttering was maybe caused by the CPU bottleneck, kind of, you know, maybe, not really sure, because as you can see, our frame time graph is actually completely smooth right now. There's no spikes whatsoever. Even if I do, okay, never mind. I really thought it wouldn't drop, you know, because sometimes it doesn't. As you can see, it's like random, you know. You just gotta live with it if you want to play this game. I lived with it. I played 600 plus hours on it, and yep, it was still always like this, but I got enough like in season 2, I think, maybe even earlier than that. They just made an update and it completely broke the game. It was stuttering way too much and I couldn't really play it anymore and enjoy it. So I just stopped playing PUBG altogether. But now, compared to that, it's actually running really smoothly here. So as you can see, our average is at 105, our 1% is at 77. Smooth 60 plus experience all of the time, even on high settings. And let's apply ultra settings now. Let's hit the page up button, which is actually the key that I have to start this benchmark thing. As you can see, we're now dropping into the 80s on ultra settings. So that's not bad at all still, you know. If you have a 75Hz monitor or 60Hz 1080p monitor, you can still play the game on ultra settings without a problem, at least so far. As you can see, our VRAM usage is also like at 4.3 gigabytes, so that's not bad as well. Of course, the GTX 1063 gigabyte will struggle a little bit and will probably stutter a little bit, because when you run out of VRAM in PUBG, it actually starts stuttering a little bit, more than the usual at least, you know. Okay, so ultra settings here, our minimum FPS looking at the entire city is around 76, as you can see, 76 right there. Very good. Okay, I was actually expecting around like 65, maybe 70 FPS, but I was not really expecting 76 FPS coming out of this card at 1080p full ultra settings. So that's very impressive to see coming out from the GTX 1060. Fun fact, guys, this card actually was one of the ones that started, or at least pushed, the channel to another level, you know. I started the channel with the GTX 760 and I made videos on that for like 2 months, but then I got a PC for my girlfriend with the GTX 750 Ti, and that was the one that started getting more views because, of course, it was a very good card price performance wise when it launched. And then I stuck with the 750 Ti and 760 for a long time, and I bought the GTX 1060 later. I actually sold the GTX 760 to buy the 1060 here, and it's still alive and kicking after 3 years because I actually bought it on launch day, so that's probably why my 1060 videos back then got a little bit more views than usual. So guys, that's been it. GTX 1066 gigabyte in PUBG Steam or PUBG PC. It's not PUBG Lite, and it's running really well. Even our 1% lows here on ultra settings are above 60 FPS, so you guys should have no problems, absolutely no problems running this game with this GPU. So thank you so much for watching. I hope to see you in the next one. Don't forget to like the video if you did and subscribe if you haven't already, and as always, I love you all. Bye bye.